What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Christ and Culture podcast. My name's Cameron Prince, and I'll be hosting this today. And before we jump right into the video, I'm sorry about the background, maybe it being too dark, and especially this thing right here that's hanging behind me. That is my graduation robe that is coming up that I'm going to be using very soon. And then if I turn the lights on in my room, it's almost like the background is a flashbang, and it's really distracting to me while recording. So please bear with me through this episode and to the many different production flaws that may be going. But just to get us started, let's talk about what Halloween is. Halloween comes from a Celtic and pagan background where the October 31st on the calendar for the Celtics was a day which ended the harvest season, and then was also a spiritual day to where all the Celtic people that have passed away that are now deceased, they were almost as close back to earth. The Celtics believe that they were physically as close to the dead as they possibly could on October 31st. And so for the pagan original holiday of how they celebrated Halloween, that's what that history is. But for the Americanized Halloween, where we actually get the word hallow and Halloween from, so really Halloween, if I'm not mistaken, was not like even a vocabulary word until it came to America, where Halloween was All Hallows Eve, or maybe October 30th was All Hallows Eve, and then October 31st was All Saints Day. But it was a Christian holiday, and the Catholic Church came about with it, where All Saints Day, you can kind of see a correlation here to the Celtic history of it, where the Catholic Church in America, they used All Hallows Day, or All Saints Day, to pray for the dead Christians, martyrs that passed before them. And you kind of see a connection. Christians used it as a day to pray for saints, and then the Celtics back before then used it to not pray to the dead, but they thought they were as close to the dead as they could. And so an interesting detail that I saw while researching All Hallows Eve and the Halloween holiday is that sorry, I lost my train of thought. Is that many poor and begging Christians would go knock on door to door and offer to pray for maybe a dead family member of that home in exchange for food. So when it comes to Halloween, what other thing do we kind of recognize when we talk about someone knocking on a door and asking for food? On Halloween, that's what trick or treat is. And so even the trick or treat has a Christian a background to it. But here's what I want to get clear right here. For the time in the Christian church and the Catholic Church, when there really wasn't any denominations like there are now, whatever the Pope kind of said was good to go was good to go. And so that practice of what we call trick-or-treating, back then it was called souling. And you would pray for the dead in exchange for food. And so you're asking me, Cam, do you think it's okay to pray to the dead? And no, because that almost like kind of affirms maybe not the gospel. It affirms the doctrine. That's the word I was looking for. The doctrine of purgatory, which I do not affirm. That's not I don't see purgatory anywhere in the Bible. But people like Martin Luther, which is funny because Halloween is also Reformation Day. Martin Luther was highly against prayer to the dead, any service to the dead. Like he was against, the word is slipping my mind right now, but when people could pay a church leader, a priest, for the salvation of a past loved one. I cannot think of the word right now, but that is, in simple, what Martin Luther was against was any sort of like ministry, if I can use a word, of prayer or giving to the church in order for the souls of the dead. Martin Luther was highly against that, and I'm a Protestant. I'm a Baptist, and so I affirm Martin Luther when his Reformation against that. But for the time for Halloween in America, it has a Christian background. So today, why I speak of all that is because today a lot of people, a lot of Christians don't celebrate Halloween because it's they still see it as a celebration of a pagan holiday of glorifying demons, dressing up as demons, as witches, as skeletons, and like I think it's a little bit more tame now. But I intern at a church, and the youth pastor there, Philip Wood, talked about how when he was a kid, when He-Man was like really big for that generation, Skeletor, I believe was the skeleton's name in Skeletor. The church is kind of going through like this whole like ideology of like any sort of possession of or like any likeness to that kind of toys or media or anything was almost like worshiping Satan. And so the youth pastor Philip's mom took up all of his He-Man and Skeletor toys. And so that's how many people see Halloween today. Like when I say this guy's name, I'm not saying I think he's an idiot. This guy's name is Carew Ellington, a Christian influencer on Instagram that I follow, and I love a lot of his content. He recently just got married, so big congratulations to him, even though he may never see this. But I followed him for years, and I really like most of his stuff, but I disagree with his take on Halloween. He says that Halloween is still the worship of idols or the worship of demons and stuff like that I just mentioned. But here's a kicker to me, that he also celebrates Christmas by putting a Christmas tree up in his room, in his living room. And why do I say that? What's that have to do with anything? If you don't know, that the Christmas tree also sort of has like Viking and Celtic background, where they would use a tree to celebrate another sort of pagan holiday. They would get an evergreen tree, and so as the generations go on, that kind of becomes a universal thing for the holiday season, for Christmas, that everybody likes a Christmas tree in their room. It just kind of became a thing. But sort of how I mentioned in yesterday's episode about watching Wicked and Harry Potter on that, I believe it's an attitude of the heart, a posture of the heart, because when my parents took me to dress up when I was young, like I remember a picture I saw not too long ago of a like 6-year-old me dressed up as a blue Power Ranger from Power Rangers Jungle Fury, which is the best Power Rangers if you ever want to debate me on it. And when I saw a video that Carew posted, and I showed it to my dad, and I was like, hey, Dad, I know like y'all let me dress up as a kid, but I highly doubt that me dressing up as a Power Ranger at 6 years old was a form of worship to the occult, a worship to Satan, and however you want to articulate that. And my dad was like, yeah, we weren't trying to let you, or we weren't trying to lift you up to the occult. And so what do I think now? I'm only 22. I'm not close to being married or to having kids, but what would I think, my personal conviction of Halloween and what I would do with my own kids in the future? And I think I would let them dress up too. The church I went to growing up, we did a fall festival, which is, the sanctified version, as much as you can get, of the Halloween holidays you can get, making it a more Protestant thing compared to the Catholic, general Christian focus of back in the day for when Halloween first started in America. But I remember at these events growing up, I went to one my freshman year of college, of just being a group leader or just being an adult chaperone. I'm just walking around and floating, making sure everything's going well. I dressed up as Chewbacca that day. But I just know a lot of kids find joy. A lot of girls dressing up as princesses or fairies. They enjoy that. It's fun to them. And kids dressing up as a baseball player, as a football player, as a firefighter, as a cop. All these things. Like, dressing up, if your heart is not to glorify the occult, to join the occult, and just simply just like have a good time as a family and go to an event like a fall festival at a church and just have fun. Like, what's wrong with that? What is wrong with that? I mean, I think I think the essence of Halloween, of how it was started, of like praying to the dead and paying for their salvation, as Martin Luther was against, that doesn't really have to do with Halloween. That's a more general issue in the church. But when you think of it, it's unbiblical. But also don't think you can legalistically add a rule that you can't, like, as a family, participate in this thing. I know the Bible says, like, do not conform to the things of this world. But then in Romans, it also says, do good, overcome evil with good. And, I mean, I think that if you can turn an evil practice into a good thing, is fellowship in a church on Halloween, let your kids dress up and just play games and have fun. I don't think that's sinful. I don't think you're going to lose your salvation off of that. If it was an issue of losing your salvation, it would be a much bigger thing. But I don't see it as that, and I haven't had a conviction from God's word to tell me otherwise, or a debate with someone that make me think otherwise. So that's kind of where I stand. And so when we think of Christmas, a lot of Christians look at Christmas and the Christmas tree as, since it's a holiday of the birth of Jesus, and then obviously a recognition of Jesus' whole life, and even like it's all you. I mean, every single time I get in Halloween season, Christmas season, when I think about Jesus' birth, I also think about what his birth means as the life he lived, and then the death and burial and resurrection of who he is that we celebrate on Easter. Also have reference for it on Christmas too. And so a lot of people, I think, are the same as me, and they have a sort of, they look at as the Christmas tree and any sort of things that as like redeemed because of the holiday of which Christ celebrates. And so Halloween is not a Christ redeemed holiday. It's still a holiday that celebrates witches, zombies, skeletons, anything, demons, anything. Dressing up as the devil, yeah, which is demonic. But you can go without dressing demonically and dress up maybe as a Power Ranger or as a cop or a firefighter, or a little girl dressing up as a princess. That's different. That's not demonic in itself. It's an honest kid with a heart of just having a good time and just having fun with it being a family thing. And so that's where my heart is, and that's where the end of this episode is going to come, is that the final statement that I want to give is if you can avoid glorifying the occult and worshiping Satan with Halloween by making it into a family holiday that celebrates family and family time, and also fellowship with your church, that's the only way I would celebrate Halloween, is going to a church event. Because, does that mean because I think everything else is demonic? No, I'm just not a big walking down the streets at night. Probably because of the towns I grew up in, which are not the greatest, being in the South. But I think you can still celebrate Halloween as a Christian if your heart posture is in the right place, and in a way that doesn't glorify how other people glorify it. Because Halloween can be glorified as a demonic holiday, but Christians can turn it around and make it into a good thing. As Romans says, overcome evil with good. So, if you want to hear more episodes like this, just leave, like I said in the past couple episodes, leave a like, comment a topic you would like me to talk about, and then subscribe to let me see your support for this channel. And as always, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.